Now on CoastTV News.
Flood fixes. After Hurricane Erin left streets underwater, Fenwick Island leaders are rolling out new ideas to keep the tide at bay. Heritage Rising. The Nanticoke Tribe celebrates a new chapter with a $3 million expansion. We'll see there. And federal force. President Trump threatens to send troops into major U.S. cities. Where and why Democrats are pushing back.
This is CoastTV News at 11.
Well, what started in Washington, D.C. could soon expand as President Trump talks about sending the National Guard to more U.S. cities. Good evening. I'm Christina DeRobertis. Welcome to CoastTV News at 11. Now, 2 weeks into a federal takeover of law enforcement in Washington, D.C., the Trump administration has set its sights on Chicago and perhaps other cities. But as Karen Kafa reports from the White House, Democratic officials are hitting back.
Democratic officials in and around Chicago say President Donald Trump is out of bounds as he floats a federal takeover of the city's law enforcement on the heels of what he's done here in Washington, D.C. And Chicago is not the only city on President Trump's list. Trump also threatened this weekend to send National Guard troops to Baltimore with a Democratic mayor there and a Democratic governor of Maryland. But the Trump administration has been planning for weeks to send the National Guard to Chicago, according to two officials. It's not clear what that would look like, but the talk has been enough for Democrats in the state to respond, saying there is no crime emergency in Chicago to justify such a move.
That's why I'm saying there could be other ways to utilize the resources in an appropriate way, but to create this, it's theater. He's just doing more of the same, distracting from his failures as a president. And we're just, Illinois Democrats are just not going to have it.
Chicago's mayor says the city will take legal action if troops are sent, as the White House does not have the same kind of federal authority in other states and cities as it does in Washington, D.C. Trump Monday morning brushing off criticism.
I made the statement that next should be Chicago because, as you all know, Chicago is a killing field right now. And they don't acknowledge it. And they say, we don't need him, freedom, freedom. He's a dictator, he's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense and I'm a smart person.
Meanwhile, over the weekend here in Washington, D.C., National Guard troops started carrying their sidearms. At the White House, I'm Karen Kafa.
And back here on the coast, flooding hit Fenwick Island hard during Hurricane Erin last week. Now, town leaders pushing forward some potential flooding fixes. Those are kayaks you see going down North Shoals Road in Fenwick Island on Friday. Neighbors sent us these videos to show just how deep the water was during the storm. Now, town leaders approved two flooding project ideas, including a flood mitigation project for the end of Farmington Street and to start talking about looking into a town resiliency fund.
I think as a solution, definitely it's something that's going to require collective problem solving and, a concerted effort of all the neighbors. I think one idea that to me makes sense is building vinyl bulkheads around, every house in the town.
And officials say they're expecting to start work on the project at the end of Farmington Street sometime next month. Red no swimming flags still flapping in the wind along Ocean City today. Beachgoers only allowed in the water up to their knees, with an exception for professional surfers, according to the Ocean City Beach Patrol. CoastTV reporter Kevin Zappe shows us how rip currents and fewer lifeguards are playing a role in those beach restrictions.
Brian Ventura woke up at 5 a.m. this morning to drive all the way to Ocean City for a beach day. But he was disappointed when he found out he couldn't go all the way in the water.
The lifeguards just kept stopping us from trying to go deeper into the water.
It may be annoying to some, but according to the Ocean City Beach Patrol, dangerous rip currents are still a problem. And that's why swimming restrictions are in place.
I was pretty bummed out when I wasn't able to go that deep in.
According to the Beach Patrol Captain Butch Arbin, swimmers were limited to ankle-high water on Sunday. And on Monday, that limit was extended just a bit further, up to their knees.
The policies we put in place are really to try to keep everyone safe.
Visitor Vincent Conti was disappointed.
I just wanted to experience getting, hit by the waves. And I got called back when the water was up to my waist.
But rip currents are only half the battle. The OC Beach Patrol is also understaffed. According to Arbin, last week 90 lifeguard stands were being utilized. Today, just 30. That means each lifeguard has to watch a much larger area of ocean.
The guards are getting further and further apart, which makes it more difficult.
Ventura understands that safety is the #1 priority, but he's hoping the next time he wakes up early to hit the beach, those red flags are nowhere to be seen.
And that was Kevin Zippe reporting. The Ocean City Beach Patrol will continue to monitor conditions before lifting the current restrictions. And we'll go now to our Coast TV poll. We want to know, when you go to the beach, what do you usually do when it comes to the water? Looking at the results, 54% say they just stay on shore, 13% say they swim wherever they want, 33% say they swim near the lifeguards. And you can still vote if you go over to coasttv.com or use our mobile app. On your screen now are images of Chincoteague post-Hurricane Erin. Tons of tire tracks and construction vehicles around as they work to repair the parking lots there. The hope is to have some access available before Labor Day weekend. Beach Road still closed, but the gate to the wildlife loop will remain open to drivers so that you can get to Swans Cove. That trail, about a half-mile walk, but it does lead to the beach. Access will be reassessed once parking at the Toms Cove Beach reopens. And remember, lifeguards are only on duty during weekends during this time of year. Let's take a live look now into Lewis and turn it to our First Alert Chief Meteorologist Paul Williams. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening to you. Right now we have relatively light winds at this particular point. We're at about 11 miles per hour wind gusts for us, Indian River Inlet. Everywhere else we're relatively calm and staying relatively clear for the rest of the evening. We're at 75 degrees in Indian River Inlet, 73 in Rehoboth. We're at 68 degrees in Milton, 70 right now in Georgetown, at 67 in Millsboro, 66 in Gumboro, Delmar, and 70 right now in Seaford. Waves are subsiding a bit for us as well. We're down to 4 to 3 foot waves at this present time, which is closer to the norm. We were under concerns for small craft advisory as well as rip current statement. That now has been allowed to expire, so we're in a free and clear there. We have the frontal boundary that's actually begun to kind of drift its way over towards the east. And we do have one lingering small craft advisory that's in effect for the folks that are over in the Cambridge area. Aside from that, we're looking pretty clear for the rest of this evening. Coming up, we'll talk about that cool feel that will stay in the air all week long, Christina.
Okay, thank you, Paul. New tonight, Delaware Governor Matt Meyer just signed 11 new bills to improve public health in Delaware. The big one, the Pre-Authorization Act, is meant to cut down on insurance delays so that patients can get care faster. Some other new laws target prescription costs, they boost mental health services, and protect healthcare workers. Today, ground was broken on new additions to the Nanticoke Indian Center near Millsboro. The expansion, funded by around $3 million in state, federal, and local contributions. The groundbreaking had a blessing of the grounds, a round friendship dance, and it was a real celebration of years of fundraising and hard work for the tribe. Tribe historian Dr. Bonnie G. Hall says the project hopes to connect the centuries-long history of the Nanticoke with the community.
We really want to provide the public with an opportunity to get to know us as their neighbors, and more importantly, to be able to have a better appreciation for who we are as a people.
And the expansion will be connected to the existing building. It aims to be a true community center for the tribe, serving as a place for child and elder care, food donations, and importantly, education. Now to Dover, where a potential pop-up park is drawing some mixed reactions from neighbors. Some people saying the area has a number of safety issues, while others say the area needs more spaces for children. Strong opinions on both sides are making the park's future uncertain.
My opinion is we don't need playground equipment at either park. There's enough parks locally that people can utilize.
Well, the development is going young again. It was young when we first moved in, and then it aged out. And we are getting a lot more kids, and I think we need it because the kids need someplace to go.
Dover city leaders say alternative sites such as Mayfair Park are also being considered. The survey on the park will remain open until August 30th, and responses will help city officials decide the next steps there. And we are just getting started tonight. More news coming up, like an investigation underway at Iowa State University after a false report of an active shooter. But first, we have a look inside Milford's revamped middle school ahead of the 2025 school year.
Here's a look at your Bay forecast. 80 for the high on Tuesday. Wednesday, mostly sunny skies at 77, 79 on Thursday. And we stay in the 70s after that. Your full forecast coming up in 60 seconds. Well, we're finally coming from under the shadow and influence of Erin. Finally, the last of the advisories have pretty much been allowed to expire, and that's a good thing. Now we kind of reset for this work week, and it's going to be more of a fall-like feel outside. And with our greatest concern, more than like other than the floodwaters receding, of course, will be a good deal of sunshine that will actually teeter somewhere within a bit of a high UV index number. That's what we're concerned about this week, and it's going to be cooler too, by the way. We're at 68 degrees in Salisbury. Dew point temperature, 63. Winds are calm, gently blowing out of the north. Now we're going to stay in the mid-60s with partly cloudy skies in Salisbury. It's not going to be like that everywhere. We're at 68 in Salisbury, but 66 in Delmar, as well as Gumboro, 1 degree cooler than that. And Dagsboro, Long Neck, 66 degrees. Milton, 68, along with Milford being 68 degrees right now. Although the winds are just gently blowing out of the north for the most part, this is sort of the residual effect of the frontal boundary that pulled through as a cold front. Now it's kind of oscillating as a quasi-stationary front. But as you take a look at where we are right now, here's that quasi-stationary front that I just made reference to. And this is the cold front part that really passed over us. We have a surge of warm air pushing this way, cold air coming this way, hence the idea of a stationary boundary with those two air masses kind of battling for dominance right now. And they're kind of stuck, you know, in a tie, so to speak. That's what helps create this stationary boundary here. We have a bit of a trough to the north and to our west, which are going to be pretty much inert, not really all that an eventful situation. Remember when I was talking about that sunshine just a few moments ago? Well, this is what I was referring to. We're going to be at a very high level, at least a level 8 for our UV index for the next 4 to 5 days in a row. So although it's going to feel cooler, it's going to be vitally important, particularly since we're at the end of the summer season, to take the sunblock, because you could get burned even though it's cool outside. Winds are out of the north for tomorrow, high of 79 in Lewis, and for Georgetown, we're expecting a high of 78 degrees for the high in Cambridge and Vienna, 79 in Federalsburg, and we should warm to 79 degrees in Berlin and Snow Hill, 1 degree cooler than that for us in Pocomoke City. Keep in mind for Tuesday, along the coast, we're looking for temperatures in the upper 70s to low 80s. 80-degree marker is about as good as it's going to get. The winds will be very feisty out of the north at about 11 to 15 miles per hour. Tuesday morning, we start off in the 50s, upper 50s, 59, 58. We'll warm to just under 80, 78, 79, 77 in that range, generally speaking. Back to the 50s on Wednesday, and then we're back into the mid-70s on Wednesday. So we're going to get a little bit cooler as the days progress. So in summary, clearing out quickly for tonight. Tomorrow, 80 degrees, brighter beaches, but a bit blustery. I can't say that 3 times in a row. That's too much alliteration there. For Wednesday, we're looking for 77 degrees and a fall feeling. Another piece of alliteration. My producers are enjoying me saying the word alliteration. Here we go. So as we take a look at your 7-day forecast, we will stay on the cool side of the cumulus cloud, so to speak. That's another piece of alliteration, by the way.
All right, perfect forecast, Paul. Thank you. Well, the new and improved Milford Middle students this school year. Some final touches in the construction process are still happening, but Coast TV photojournalist Matt Hipsman got a sneak peek inside the renovated historic building today.
I would say probably 15 years ago or so, the Milford School District began looking at options because we are a growing community. And one of those options was to build a brand new school, start to finish, here on this campus. And the community were very clear that they still felt very emotionally connected to the original portions of the schools.
It has such a past, it has such a history in the community. Many of your Milford citizens went to high school here. Others went through it when it was a middle school. It was even partially an elementary school, Lakeview Elementary, for a while.
We've seen some significant growth in the last 5 years here with the addition of a lot of developments and things being built around the community just outside of town and things of that nature.
Our middle school and intermediate and secondary population has risen and rises about 100 students a year, which is a lot.
Right now, we're anticipating just over 500 students when we open on September the 2nd. The school will basically be occupied with the exception of the 3rd floor of the original building. And so that space will be reserved for our future growth. And the capacity of the building is 1,000 students. So we still have the ability to fit close to an additional 300 students into the school as our community continues to grow.
New today, an investigation is underway at Iowa State University after a false report of an active shooter. The hoax happened today, which also happened to be the first day of classes. Campus police are frustrated and they believe the fake calls may be an example of swatting.
This is really frustrating because, you know, it brings an element of potential danger that doesn't need to be there. You know, we're having an immediate, swift response. Officers are responding lights and sirens, which is dangerous in and of itself.
And authorities found no credible threat on campus. Students returned to class. Still ahead on Coast TV News at 11, a new policy for plus-sized passengers on Southwest Airlines. And coming up, Cracker Barrel responds to criticism over its new logo.
This is Coast TV News at 11.
It looks like Cracker Barrel is responding to all the backlash over its redesigned logo. You might have seen it. You can see it here. The restaurant unveiled the new minimalist logo last week. It dropped the barrel and the old timer, many people believe is supposed to be the uncle of the chain's founder. Now, some outrage followed and the company's stock nosedived more than 12% in one day. Cracker Barrel posted a response today saying the backlash shows them that they could have done a better job sharing who they are and will always be. And it said Uncle Herschel will still be found on the menu, on road signs, and inside the country store. Southwest Airlines is changing its policy for plus-sized passengers. Starting January 27th, passengers who take up space in the neighboring seat will have to buy an extra ticket and they might not be refunded for it. The current rule allows flyers to buy an extra seat ahead of time and then get refunded later or request an extra seat at no charge at the airport. But the new rules mean the second seat will be non-refundable unless the flight departs with at least one open seat and both seats are purchased within the same fare class. Well, many American households have felt uncertain about the economy for the last several months. During tougher economic times, it's important to be prepared for any potential downturns. Ivan Rodriguez has more on how people can set themselves up for success financially, even as inflation keeps making it difficult.
As prices keep going up across different parts of the economy, it can be challenging for many people to consistently save money. Experts tell me one of the keys is to focus on small goals and, most importantly, your money habits. Experts project prices in the U.S. will continue to rise because of tariffs. For some households, small increases over time are easier to handle, but for others with little wiggle room in their budgets, that slow burn could resemble a slow bleed.
Many Americans continue to feel down about the economy, and that's largely because of affordability concerns.
Sarah Foster with Bankrate says nearly 1 in 4 Americans report having no emergency savings, according to their latest report. Despite households facing higher prices, she says it's important to still have a savings plan.
You're really going to need to make sure that you have at least some money set aside to help you pay for any kind of income disruption.
Some keys to getting started include creating a budget you check regularly and cutting back on expenses. Also, instead of a 6-month savings goal, focus on a shorter-term objective.
Saving your first $5, then your first $10, then maybe eventually working up to saving a month's worth of expenses.
About 46% of U.S. adults have enough emergency savings to cover 3 months of expenses. More than 1 in 3 Americans needed to use their emergency savings in the past year, with a majority using it for essentials from monthly bills to emergency expenses, according to Bankrate. Foster says the 2 things that matter the most when talking about emergency funds include the habit of building wealth for yourself and taking advantage of compound interest.
Thinking about yourself as your own best advocate, that really is kind of the bottom line here.
Foster tells me when it comes to compound interest and taking advantage of higher interest rates, consider opening a high-yield savings account. That could help accelerate your savings contributions. Just make sure that your account is with an FDIC-insured bank. In Atlanta, I'm Ivan Rodriguez.
Coming up in sports, Delaware women's soccer is making program history to start the season. We'll let you know what the Blue Hens are doing and how rare it is. And coming up in tonight's Health Minute, how AI could help people with type 2 diabetes.
Here's a look at your Gulf forecast. Going to be an absolutely gorgeous looking day, not so breezy. So it's going to be mild with spectacular sunshine.
Well, thanks to this summer's weather, it could be a record year for corn farmers. The website Pro Farmer just finished its yearly 7-state crop tour. They project corn at a record 182.7 bushels per acre. Some areas have experienced overly hot conditions and plant disease, so it has yet to be seen how that will affect the final yield, but the U.S. is the world's largest producer and exporter of corn. Well, a rare case of New World screwworm has been confirmed in Maryland. It came from a patient who recently traveled to El Salvador, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. No information has been released about the patient's condition at this point. The parasite, which was basically eliminated from the U.S. roughly half a century ago, is a larval version of a fly that nests in warm-blooded animals and slowly eats away at them. Officials say there's no significant threat to the general U.S. population, but it can pose potential problems for some animals and foods. Well, more than 38 million Americans live with type 2 diabetes, and that number is expected to continue growing, according to the CDC. Now, when it comes to treatments, one size does not fit all, but a recent study suggests a new tool could help patients in real time. In tonight's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither talks to the study's principal investigator about how artificial intelligence may be the future of type 2 diabetes care.
When it comes to type 2 diabetes, full management of the disease can be a struggle.
It's very important to get the blood sugar under control to reduce the patient's risk of developing long-term complications.
Dr. Kevin Pantalone with Cleveland Clinic says many of his patients want to know how they can get off of the medications used to help them manage blood sugar. That's why he and a team of researchers are studying how artificial intelligence may be able to help through an app from Twin Health on a patient's smartphone. He says the technology uses a person's data from biosensors, including their physical activity and continuous glucose monitor, and is able to learn a patient's predicted glucose responses to various meals, then provides personalized recommendations.
In real time, it will tell the patients based on their predicted response what they should consume for the meal, how many grams of carbohydrate, as well as the order in which the foods are consumed.
After 12 months of research, Pantalone says 71% of patients who took part in the study were able to get an average blood glucose level, known as A1C, of 6.5% without any glucose-lowering medications, except metformin, a common and relatively low-cost diabetes drug. That compared to the less than 3% of the group of participants who tried to achieve the same results with only standard diabetes care from their doctor in that time.
When you give patients the tools and the technology to succeed, patients can do very well.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
And Dr. Pantalone says these results are from the first year of the study, and they're currently undergoing research for the second year. He says researchers are now working to determine if the results from the first year can be maintained in the long term.
Delmarva Sports Network from the Wawa Studios.
There's some historical success going on up in Newark. As of last night, the Delaware women's soccer team is off to a perfect 4-0 start, and that's the Blue Hens' longest undefeated streak to begin a season in nearly 20 years, dating back to 2006. Junior Maggie Groh has led the way so far. The forward has tallied 3 goals and 3 assists. Overall, though, it's been well balanced. 6 different players have scored a goal, and 7 different players have an assist to their name. That's helped the Blue Hens to their 4 wins, and so far they've beaten Mount St. Mary's, Bucknell, George Mason, and most recently, Navy. That last victory was just yesterday, and it came on the road. It's Delaware's first year in Conference USA, and the league is wide open. Over the last 6 seasons, there have been 6 unique champions. The last 4 conference winners were all first-time champs, too. And in Major League Baseball, the Orioles fell to the Red Sox 4-3 tonight. Baltimore led 3-1 after the 3rd inning, but gave up that lead in the 5th. Boston left fielder Jarren Duran hit a 3-run shot to give the Sox a lead they didn't relinquish. Baltimore couldn't match that offensive production down the stretch. The O's went just 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position. Designated hitter Ryan Mountcastle went 0 for 2 alone in those situations. The Orioles have now lost 4 of their last 5 games. Baltimore and Boston battle again tomorrow at 6:45. That's it for sports.
And coming up next, it's almost time to spice things up. Starbucks rolling out a fan favorite sooner than usual. Starbucks' iconic pumpkin spice latte returns on Tuesday, tomorrow. The coffee chain announced the drink's arrival a month earlier than usual this year. That's because Google searches for pumpkin spice started earlier. Starbucks has other favorites returning tomorrow, which include the pumpkin cream cold brew, iced pumpkin cream chai, and pecan crunch oat milk latte.
Yeah, it's so confusing. I can't speak it, but I understand it's delicious. All right, so we're looking at temperatures in the 60s with our Irish Eyes camera. Listen, Minako Holland of Lewis, you're our umbrella winner. Be sure you call our weather line, sponsored by Brockstead, Mandalis, and Federico. And your phone call, your forecast is just a call away. Call 443-880-9100. Finally, here's a look at your exclusive 10-day forecast. We will get a chance to warm to 80 degrees for Tuesday. Then after that, we stay basically in the 70s throughout the next really 8 to 9 days in a row. So we go to 83 again next Thursday. But overnight, we're going to be on the cool side because temperatures will fall into the 50s.
Chilly. All right, thanks, Paul, and thanks for joining us for Coast TV News at 11. You can find more local news and local weather on our Coast TV News app. The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon's up next, and we'll see you tomorrow for Coast TV News at 5 a.m. Have a great night.